You're still searching for that breakthrough that always feels just out of reach. What is your true life path, and how do you finally find it? Welcome to Say It Anyway, the podcast where we help you unlock the breakthrough you've been waiting for so your true life path can finally come to life. Each week, we share powerful practical tools you can use right now to start transforming your life. You'll hear raw, honest conversations with people from all walks of life, people who found their way forward and are here to share mindsets, strategies, and wisdom that help them get there. I'm James Ferrigno. I've helped people reconnect with their power for years. I'll guide you beyond surface level solutions into a deeper way of seeing the world, one rooted in connection, courage, and open-hearted dedication. This is your space to think differently, live boldly, and finally do the thing you were meant to do.
Clients.
Let's get started.
Coaching as well. So I started a coaching business, and that went up and down. It was doing okay before COVID, and then went down. And so then I started doing individual students for special eds, and I'm doing a little of both. But yeah, and then lots of exploration, lots of learning about masculinity, and lots of workshops. Oh, I went through the whole Human Awareness Institute, many workshops there, and Fearless Man workshops, many workshops there. A lot of other things too, a lot of different therapies, somatic therapy, and I went through a different kind of sex therapy and studied NLP. I had an NLP coach. Went to the Academy of Intuitive Medicine, where I learned how to use my intuition and for healing practices of myself and other people. So I got a master's degree there as well for performing healings on other people and myself. So, and there's a lot that goes along with that as well. A lot of details there, but yeah, busy doing a lot of things. So, what are you most surprised about in the direction your life and work has taken now that all these years have passed?
I- I'm not surprised in a sense. I've kind of hit a plateau, I guess, in the last 15 years. And as far as developing my intuition and the lucid dreaming practices I was doing and other meditation, deep meditation, kind of hit a plateau with that. And I made some great progress, but I actually got to a point where I realized I really don't know what I'm doing by myself. And in altered states where you're visiting other realms of focus, um, there could be some difficulties or dangers, perhaps. And even though I believe in this safe universe and whatnot, still there were states that where I visited places like I don't know what this is, and so
Yeah.
and it's like if I don't have anyone to interpret it for me and explain,
Yeah.
oh, that's perfectly natural part of this process that you're going through. So I backed off, and which
Yes.
is fine. I during this California period, the last 28 years, I like to say I made my peace with God in a sense of, that question, why am I here? What am I doing? What's my purpose? I got through all of that. I found all my intention, why I'm here. I got all that straightened out 10 years ago. And so at this stage of the game, I guess a surprise would be that I have the means to live comfortably here in Lewis, Delaware, and actually come back to my music composition. I'm a trained classical composer, always loved the orchestra. And of course, being a classical composer, to rent a professional orchestra, it's thousands of dollars per hour just to even hear the arrangements or whatever that you're working on, or to record them or
Yes.
produce them. So 40 years ago, that just was a path in the road that, okay, I'm not going to make a living doing this, even though I love this. So 40 years in the future, the technology has caught up now where uh, sample libraries, digital recording, AI is very interesting. There are soon to be systems where I haven't found it yet, but I know it's in process to put in. I've got 9 hours of recordings of improvisations and other things to train a model of my own style, so to speak. And, not cover tunes, not playing cover tunes into it or putting Beethoven or Debussy or whatever into it, but putting all of this music in and then seeing what that, spits back out to me based on what it learns. So I'm looking forward to exploring that. But in the meantime, I'm now able to, arrange and record, mix and produce orchestral music, and make mock-ups. They're demos. You have to fool the ear when you're mixing with sampled instruments. So it's not the same as even recording an acoustic orchestra and then producing that recording, working with that recording and mixing and mastering that. So I'm having a blast with my creativity, with my life partner, Joanne. We've been together for 38 years now. And so we have a very good creative relationship. She started channeling around 2007-ish. She's going on 20 years channeling Rose. That was another part of our journey together. She started channeling. It's like, you're not prepared in a marriage to have a third persona, so to speak, that you have to contend with in a sense.
Yeah.
But being a fan of the Seth material and studying Jane and Rob's work and what they went through certainly provided a framework for exploration for us. And we found our way. When Joanne started, we saw a psychiatrist who was a Seth reader and who recently passed, Dr. Joyce Kovelman, a good friend of ours from Simi Valley, California, out there. And she did a session with Joanne to make sure she wasn't losing it. Basically, like, is this pathology? Is this is something fragmenting in her outer ego, as Seth would call it? Something fragmenting in a pathological way, or is this a healthy thing? And she came through that with flying colors. So that was nice to get that professional evaluation. And and there's very few psychologists, psychiatrists that you can go to who even have a worldview that acknowledges channeling as a I think of it as a multiple intelligence. And so that's part of the journey that we've been on through all this time.
Yeah, that's wow, you touched on a lot of areas there. They let's go back to the I think you were talking about maybe astral projection or being on different planes or lucid dreaming. And I've noticed with just wanted to reflect on some of that, even after getting the masters and working with these energies for years. And Francesca McCartney she lists that there's 21 intuitive senses, and usually people are active with a few of them, have them strongly. I strangely, I think 19 of the 21, I do experience or practice with on a regular basis. Channeling is one of the two that I don't do, for whatever reason. Like intuitive knowing is right at the top, and emotional connection. But I noticed myself that when I go to the academy and work with there's 30 of us there, whether it was a large group of 30 or 40 people, or actually my class had, I think, like 80 people. But is that number right? Anyway, a large group of people. And but we would sometimes break up into smaller groups of 8 people or 5 people. It is much, much easier to know what's going on. And that's how you get for the healings and or whatever you're doing, precognition, whatever the thing is. She always said that there's 80% accuracy is about what the best you're going to get. But when you use 6 people, you all kind of clue into the same thing, and then you can discuss it and go back and forth, and then you can get basically 100% accuracy because there's so many people looking at it. And I found that when I do things alone, it's like sometimes it's like, I I don't know what's going on here. I don't really know what I'm doing. And even so, we do like a Wednesday night thing that I go back to sometimes, and I notice, wow, everything is so much easier, so much more clear when I'm doing it with other people. And I've really realized it's a group process. I mean, you got to have two, really.
Yeah.
I could do
It's
some
like,
daily practices myself, but to get any kind of accuracy, you kind of really want to have two people. Oh, I lost you for a second there.
yeah, I lost you for a second there. Our
Mhm.
little demon bugs are flaring up
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
But you're back.
Okay.
It sounds
Yeah,
like an
so
amplification when
it gets louder.
no, when you're with people. Just to go back to where we
Oh.
were before our little breakup there.
Oh, yeah.
With people, like something gets amplified as opposed to being by yourself in terms of accuracy or ability to concentrate or focus. Perhaps. Anyway.
It does, yeah, because I've noticed if I'm doing a healing on somebody else, then I'm focused and clear on what I'm doing. But when I'm doing something on myself and I'm the only one there, I mean, often it's fine, but there are times when I'm not really sure what's happening. So yeah, there's something about having another person, at least one other person, and having a larger group. It's amazing. I mean, then there's just no doubting anything. Yeah. I used to love those sessions when we'd get
Sounds great.
a panel together and the different people would chime in and say, "Oh, I think it's this. I think it's that. Well, how certain are you of this? Oh, wait, no." And then the different people would convince people, "Oh, wait, I feel stronger about this." And you really can hone in on it, on whatever's going on, whether it's some kind of physical condition that you're doing a healing on someone, or you're looking into a past life, or finding out something about their subconscious, whatever it is. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty great,
Awesome.
pretty great work. So yeah, I'm interested in the channeling work you're doing with Rose. So is that something that goes on? Does it pop up
Well,
whenever it pops up, or do you do it once a week, or how
yeah,
does that work?
we don't, when we first started out, like Jane and Rob was our model. So we did regular sessions. We did something called Dinner and a Dead Gal, and this and that. And she's written 5 books through with Rose. So she is in constant contact, so to speak, um, with her persona there that she can consciously interact with, which is interesting. I also wanted to mention, you mentioned that 19 of the 21 senses, channeling, my one published academic paper is on channeling. It was a Ken Wilberian sort of integral look at channeling. And I postulated it as a multiple intelligence. You could also go into the creativity, whatever human creativity and inspiration, and not intuition, but inspiration. Um, that we all get inspired. We all get in that zone where time stops and like, so, whoa, an hour's gone by. I didn't even realize that. You've gone into that state where channeling occurs. It's just, there's not another aspect around that's trying to come through you that you have to step aside for. Because that's the thing with channeling, the outer ego, the identity has to step aside, whether consciously, like Esther Hicks. Joanne's a conscious channeler, unlike Jane Roberts, who's the other side of the spectrum, was a unconscious channeler. Jane didn't remember anything. She had little glimpses and pieces coming back in of what had been going on, but she would have to read Rob's notes to read the books herself. So that's kind of, you know, not pathology, but it's not the healthiest thing for the outer ego either, that they're not getting the benefit of that deep trance phenomena that's happening as well, which is why I think it's not so prevalent as conscious channelers who remain somewhat awake, really in an alpha, maybe some heavy delta waves are going on. And they're starting to study this more and more. And then you just have to be disinterested as what comes through. And it comes through her fingers. So, and she will voice channel, but it comes through her fingers. The words come quickly, and if you watch her, watch her hands, her fingers are moving subtly at times, not all the time, but most of the time. So it's coming through, and as she's doing a speaking session, it will come through
Mm.
that way. So
Mm.
it was, and this was almost 20 years ago when she started. It was just like, okay, I was getting my master's in integral psychology from Wilber's Integralistic through the Fielding Institute in Santa Barbara. And we were the
Mm.
first class that went through to do that back in 2009. And I was going to do it on education, but I thought, this is the universe telling me I've got to apply this theory to channeling. So I did the
Mm-hmm.
paper and got it peer reviewed and got it published and everything. But, I outlined a research protocol too that would require millions of dollars to do all of the tests on a body of people over time to see, how it develops it in stages. Is it a stage model
Mm.
like seedling, sapling, tree? As this intelligence unfolding, you can do it with the musical intelligence. How does someone
Mm.
sitting at a piano, how does that start? You got prodigies who start at 3 and 4 years old. Great exception, not the rule. But then 10, 12, 16, 20, the musical intelligence flowers in stages. So the channeling
Mm.
intelligence develops, this is the theory, in more or less the same way, similar way, that are discrete stages that are transcend yet included, that are not going backward if it's a healthy development. Like all the intelligence, our linguistic abilities, the same thing. Our emotional intelligence
Mm.
unfolds at stages like that as well. So that was back to channeling. That was something I really did a lot of work on that. I met John Klimo at Seth conferences.
Mm-hmm.
He was a preeminent scholar in the channeling
Mm-hmm.
field 20 years ago. And,
Yeah.
and Arthur Hastings. I met all these classical guys. And another one who's escaping me right now. He's still around. He's in his 80s. Um,
Mm.
and who did all of this. And so, but I made my peace with God, so to speak. I have a
Yeah.
theory, an outline. Now just need the funding and the will forces to apply it to a data set to see if that works for channeling as a multiple intelligence. I'm fairly confident that it is, but how we, go about discerning that, and then you can train people like yourself if you're interested to
Yeah.
go into those stages and start noticing. It's very subtle at the beginning. It's not a big, loud, profound epiphany. It's a little thing, a dream, and a feeling. A thing flashes in your mind. Something, you have to start to notice those things, and
Yeah.
work with them for that to,
Yeah.
to develop. Same thing with like pendulum work or working a Ouija board. All these
Yeah.
other divination tools, water, whatever those water sticks are, the
Yeah.
rods. All of that is a great skill that people do develop. Their
Yeah.
intuition, whatever we want to call it. Maybe it is intuition, not inspiration. Deep intuition coming through somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. That does make me think about, I'm a writer. I went to college originally when I was, young. I got a master's in creative writing, so I'd written a lot of scripts and stories. And I really hadn't written much that I considered good, really good enough, to even submit to anybody. But when was this? Maybe right before COVID, maybe 2019. I was in a Whole Foods market, and just this one line came to me of someone speaking, and it had a persona. It was a 14-year-old boy, but not really me. Then it said a second line, and then a third line, and then I thought, oh my God, I've got to write this down. And I rushed, dropped my cart, ran out of the place, got in the car, drove directly to my computer so I could type it up. By that time, I had like 10 lines in my head, typed them up as quickly as I could. It was just a half hour of kind of resort what I'd been thinking. But eventually I wrote down a monologue that was about a little over an hour long, but it just came through me. I didn't think of that stuff. It just came out. And then maybe a
That's
few months, maybe
channeling.
6,
That's
yeah, I guess I was channeling. Yeah. And then maybe
yeah. No,
6
that
months
definitely.
later, I sat down and I thought, I'm going to do more of this. And I thought about that same voice, and I just let that same voice speak again and wrote a second monologue. Those are the only things I've ever written like that. But because I just have that one voice, and
There's your starting place.
that voice, yeah. And the
Yeah,
voice is a kid. It's a
because it's
14.
friendly and not threatening to you, right? If it's this deep
Yeah.
masculine, like I am the god
Ah,
of
scary
fire, it's
God.
like
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Think
probably.
about it.
I had thought about things like that when I was younger, of like, I felt like had the capacity to see or hear things, but I didn't want to. I was terrified to see some of the things or experience some of the things that I knew I could. So I really did block things out, I think.
That's another
Um,
learning to buffer energies is a whole part of this work. Popping the bubbles, as we say, it's like it's just times where you got to pop the bubbles. You got to buffer. You got to put up a wall and keep that
yeah.
energy out. It's too. We're so sensitive.
Yeah.
We're empathic. Our empathic senses are highly developed, and so we take all the good and bad in deeply. And it's a lot to
Yeah.
wrestle with at times. You have to learn to buffer and protect and do what you do. And channelers, I know, come through that. Joanne has a routine where if there's a dark energy, this was early on too. She basically, in her own way, tell it to fuck off, but in strong, certain terms. You're not here. Go find the loving light. Go find your healing elsewhere. I'm not here to help you do that kind of a thing, to any
Yeah.
kind of energy that has a darkness or a pathological evil, however you want to frame it, that's not in your best interest. You have to
Yeah.
learn to buffer that and armor up for that. And this spiritual work is that you have to be armored for it too, and develop
Hmm.
an armored sense about going forward and taking it on.
Yeah. There's a lot of subtleties to that. I love what you're saying. There's been many stages of that. I've gone through where I'm, putting up wall, right, to keep this stuff out. I think at first when I was younger, it was just the fear. I would go, oh God, no, I'm not even going to go there. And I think that seemed to keep the things out. But I think I was also keeping out good things. I was also keeping out things that I wanted. So, and I've been aware of that really my whole life. But I thought, well, better to keep that everything out than to let the dark stuff in. And so I would put up these walls, like, consciously. But in my other work, in other aspects of the energy work, I found that sometimes what worked really well was some energies, it wasn't really putting up a wall, but it was better to have grounding and let it come into me and go through and have it be pulled into the earth. So it was like the earth is taking it away, but it is going through me to get there. So, yeah, and I've experimented with that aspect of it and the aspect of putting up walls and kind of fields. So I tried to sometimes with permeable fields, so it's somewhat permeable, so I could let in what I
Right.
wanted, or filters where
Mhm.
let in the good stuff, don't let in the other stuff. And but it does get a little bit. It's pretty complex, and I'm not always 100% certain which kind of. Maybe I'm just intuitively picking the right things that I can let in and ground. Like other people's energy, think I've always been able to just move it through me, or an animal or a tree. Um, I don't know about other worldly energies. I don't think I've ever moved those through me. Um, but yeah, it's a very interesting area. It, have you ever worked with moving the thing through you and grounding it out rather than keeping it out?
Not directly. Being a musician, I think, and having a highly developed musical intelligence,
Hmm.
opens up my creativity and moves so that's been a natural way for me to be very creative and very fulfilled. We're
Mm-hmm.
all looking for that in a way, in a sense. So I haven't, yeah. And maybe I've hit some walls with things. Uh, like I said, I had altered states, lucid dreams where I'm in this environment where there's nothing familiar. It's just colors and shapes with a brief hint of some geological formation of something. No living creatures, what is this? No other
Yeah.
beings around. I'm here by myself. What is this? Is this a purgatory? Is this, where, what is this? So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, careful what you wish for. So I'm so good natured, but, I would do my work, go into sleep and do my suggestions. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
come awake in a dream or, remember the dreams right before I wake, whatever the power of suggestion. I did a lot of work with that and got results from that enough to satisfy me. Like, yeah, this is real. This is happening. And then I guess I fell back into my musical self and my creative self because that's very worldly. I also had a lucid nap dream. This was somewhere around 2008 ish,
Mm-hmm.
2009. And I was all excited. It was like the red pill or the blue pill kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was given one of those pills. And I came out of that dream like, oh, this is it going forward. I'm going to start to transcend and go into the spirit world. And when I checked out the matrix, like, oh, that's being in the matrix pill. So the message I took away from that communication was you're here to live your physical life. Don't worry about all this subtle realm, dream realm stuff. You've worked really hard and long to get a physical body in this physical world. Reap the benefit of this lifetime and continue with that. So you're to stay here. There's protectors, your spirit guides are around you. I knew that. And Rose has confirmed that. There's a
Mm-hmm.
committee that Joanne deals with, and other psychics that see Joanne and I say there's a committee around us of energies and whatnot. So yeah, and I know they're there, and they're there to help and to give me inspiration for music and helping to make people's lives a little better here through music and education. So, there's got to be a intention behind all this work too, to focus it, that there is an outcome and a practical application of it too, into the world, into the community, or else you're just sitting, contemplating, you're navel gazing. Sitting in the cave for 20 years is a waste of time. Not ultimately. It's a choice of experience. I get that, but it's a waste of time for this physical world that needs all the help it can get. Look at the state we're in our country and in our world right now in
Yeah.
2026. We're moving through a lot of stuff. I'm
Shadow.
revisiting 1968 this year. 4 dead in Ohio. Martin Luther
Mm-hmm.
King's assassination, Teddy Kennedy's assassination, the Vietnam War raging, the Nixon administration being very, very neocon, conservative. Henry Kissinger bombing Cambodia. All of that was happening 50 years ago, and it's happening, or 60 years ago, and it's happening again today. We're going through something like this with
Yeah.
tremendous social
Mm-hmm.
upheaval, economic upheaval, and whatnot as well. So, there's larger things going on here that the world needs all the help it can get from the rest of us doing our thing in the physical world and being healthy with it. And that's one of my big takeaways from the integral community is healthy and
Mm-hmm.
pathological stages of development as you climb up the tree of life, so to speak. And it's a good news, bad news, as Ken says. It can go wrong at any given stage. Some part of your personality can go into can regress or arrest or even have pathology, and it's really complex. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
15 or 20. It's like 60 aspects. Thinking of Jane Roberts' aspect psychology, different aspects of the self that are working in harmony, that need to work in harmony. And when little bits of that get out of kilter, you get some real aberrant behavior. And when that is sitting in the Oval Office of the United States, it's a scary, scary thing for most of us to look at happening day after day in and day out. So anyway, let me come back from that
Yeah.
to more fun and creative things.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot going on. I mean, I think you can't be here and not be connected to that somewhat. Just this morning, I watched a video of Jane Fonda talking about things, and I'm like, wow, 50 years later, here's Jane Fonda, really the most lucid, clear person. And then I heard the Bruce Springsteen song that he made about Minnesota this morning, and I went, wow,
I heard
is
that
this
last
really
night.
happening?
Yeah, it's 1968 all over again. It really is.
Although,
and it's needed. The artists are needed to take their platforms and put them out there and say, this cannot stand. This is bullshit. This cannot stand.
Yeah. I think it's really like, I do look at it as kind of as part of the ascension process, and that the counterculture era in the 60s was kind of a preview, a dry run for now, and that this is kind of the big deal. And I remember I had a reading once from Caroline Casey, the visionary activist. I don't know if you're aware of her, and she had always said the people born in the 60s were the embodiment of that era and that type of energy. And when the big thing comes, they'll hold that energy during the process, which I guess is now, which includes myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so it's really interesting. And
but there's a lot of other people out there who are not as highly developed, who are still going through the same evolutionary journey as we all are. They've not gotten as far along, and they're more easily manipulated, and propaganda, their bubbles, their echo chambers that we're all exposed to our own echo chambers.
Yeah.
And so discerning what's real from what's not real, particularly at the political level. So you were involved with politics, so you have a political focus to yourself. That's an important thing to discern. And then, but I'm just compassion for those who, forgive them for they know not what they do, as a great teacher of humanity said at one point. It's like compassion. You have to have compassion, but it's still damn frustrating, and infuriating that that ignorance can be played on, and one person, one vote can be gamed, and it has been gamed, and but it's still the best system I can think of, better than having a monarchy in place, a royal family by birth, that they have final say on everything. So we're going through the Democrat, and Jane Roberts had a book called The God of Jane, An American Vision, at the end of it too, talking about the decentralization of certain power and empowering, the individuals. But the individuals have to be mature enough to handle it. Right now, the majority of us are not. Well, there's a minority in the United States right now, let's say 20 to 30%, who are not highly developed, but are very loud in their voices and what they're lobbying for and what they're getting billions of dollars to do. And so our headlines of late reflect that. But as you said, there's the majority of us are still here doing what we're doing, and we're not going away. And this will not stand. And all of the I'll just go one step further. The criminal activity of this administration is being documented vociferously. There are going to be lawsuits for years to come for all of these people and the crimes they're committing. It's just a question of time till this reckoning comes. And, for our current president, it was the jailhouse or the White House. Well, he got the White House, and he's still doing his criminal thing, and you have to take a stand on that and be very clear. This is criminal activity, not being strong, like, criminals are strong, thugs are strong, mobsters are strong, dictators are strong, fascists are strong, but they don't take criticism or comedians very well. So that's a big difference. Anyway, I digress.
And that's the end of part 1 of our interview with Paul Helfrich, Ph.D. Join us next time for part 2. James Ferrigno here, and it would be great if you guys could subscribe, like, follow whatever platform you're seeing this on, because that really helps me be able to continue the podcast. And so if you can do that, that would really help us out. Thanks a lot.